She is going to talk about issues on mountain sustainability, and Dr. Simanta is the Associate Professor and Head of Geology, Assam Don Bosco University, India. Dr. Simanta, are you there? Oh, sorry.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, I haven't seen you earlier, sir. Sorry.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So I think we are all across from the different parts of the globe. So like wherever you are, you please take my salutation accordingly. Some of you are probably in your morning, some are in the afternoon, some in the evening. So I think the stage is well set with Dr. Kopitia's elaborate presentation on all their works, especially referring to the Carpathian Convention. So I think we have already got a very solid kind of foundation on the policy and what kind of work has been done in the SDGs and what are our targets and all. Now, I am basically a practitioner, and I am from the Eastern Himalayan part of the globe. So most of my talk will be referring to the examples that we get in the field in the Eastern Himalayas. So if I may be allowed, I would like to share my screen now. May I?
Yes, please.
Okay, is it visible?
Yeah, we can see it clearly.
Okay, so the topic of my presentation today is issues of sustainability in the mountain regions. So I would like to, based on our experience in the field, I would like to kind of organize it into three pillars. The issues related to the economic development in the mountain areas, or economic sustainability in the mountain areas, issues related to social sustainability in the mountain areas, and issues related to environmental sustainability in the mountain areas. And since it is only 30 minutes, so I would not really like to lead you towards the solution of all these issues. We would let us first try to understand the issues. Maybe in another session, some other speaker will try to lead us to the solutions. So, but before we really enter into these three different segments, let us first try to understand the holistic picture and what Dr. Kopitsia was referring to, and why exactly we need to really focus on all the different issues of the mountain region. So if you look at kind of this slide, so we can try to understand why mountains are vital for our lives, and or when we say our lives, this is the whole global community like who's dependent on some or the other way on the mountains. We may not be living on the mountain, but we are still dependent indirectly. So if you look at the total kind of overall scenario, there are more than 1 billion people who are living on the mountains. So almost the 1/6 of the global population is living on the mountains. And if you take the lesser part of the mountains, those which are not really properly classified within mountains, but still are kind of mountainous or maybe little highland, then these statistics will be even higher. And if you look at these three pillars from economic point of view or social point of view, or maybe from the environmental point of view, there are so many things which we really need to appreciate about the mountains, because this is like mountains are the home for different ethnic groups. Like we get to see an enormous human diversity in mountain areas, which is probably not found in the plains. Normally in the plains, there is an intermingling of people and they are not in silos, they're not in compartments, but in mountains, like a tribe living in this hill can actually see the other hill people, but the other hill is representing another tribe or another human group. They probably speak another language because of this geographical barrier. So the evolution of language is quite independent, evolution of culture is quite independent. Then the religious beliefs are also many a time are seen to be different. So in even in small geography, like it is said in our region where I come from, it is in the eastern Himalayas. It is said that you walk through this area, every 12 kilometer you get a new language, you get a new tribe. So that's the kind of enormous diversity we have when we look at it from the sociologic point of view. And overall, if you look at the diversity of the terrestrial ecosystem in the mountains, as Dr. Papicha has rightly pointed out, that we need to really focus on the biodiversity in the mountains. Then statistics say that over 25% of the terrestrial biodiversity is actually lying in the mountain areas, which is only 22% of Earth's surface area. So Earth's 22% surface area is holding 25% diversity. So you can see the enormity of this diversity. And then 28% of the forest in the world is actually found in the mountain areas. And this is not like single one type of forest. If you look at the Himalayas, there are 52 different types of forest available only in one mountain. Now you can imagine when you have 52 different types of forest, so they can accordingly support different types of birds, different type of animals, and accordingly the whole water regime also is quite diversified. Then mountains provide between 60 to 80% of the freshwater resources. So whether we live in mountain or not, whether we live in a plain area also, if we are getting a river water, then that river is certainly originating in some or the other kind of mountain. So as a result, we may not be living in mountain, but we are still dependent on mountain for our freshwater resources. So these are things which we need to first appreciate in order to understand what are the different issues there. Then coming to the food, like we have about 22 different types of major food grains, which includes potato, maize, barley, etc., etc. And out of these 20, 6 very, very important varieties are actually grown in the mountain areas. So this is again a very important aspect, because without the food security, we cannot really address the first two sustainable development goals. And then if you look at the tourism sector, then again we may be having many kind of star quality cities to attract tourists, but even today 1/5 of the world's overall tourism turnover is actually in the mountain areas. It may not be having a star city, but it offers such a beautiful ambience, such like pure oxygen and pure water, and such ecstatic scenic view that people really love to go to mountain and spend their time when they want to go for a holiday. So these are things we need to really keep in mind when we discuss about different issues of mountain sustainability. Now, now coming to the different economic issues, one is the poverty and hunger. Like if you look at the mountain areas, life is very, very difficult. Life is very, very difficult for several reasons. One is that they have got limited livelihood opportunities. They, even if they are capable, they're quite healthy, they get pure oxygen and they maintain their good health. But when it comes to like opportunities to work, it is very, very limited because of the steep terrain, because of the difficulty in retaining water, because of the difficulty in transportation of raw materials, transportation of the products, and so many other things that actually a huge population living in the mountains are facing poverty, and hunger actually kills a large percentage of newborn babies because their parents are not really having good kind of employment or good kind of income sources. So the neonatal death rate is also high in the mountain areas, and this is chiefly because of the economic issues. Then if you look at the type of options available, the second photograph is somewhere from the Southeast Asian countries, and the bottom one is from the Indo-Nepal border areas. Now, if you look at these two photographs, you can understand how difficult it must be to do even simple agriculture in these areas. Now, every moment, the person who's trying to plow the land is actually facing the danger of sliding the land, and he can anytime reach the bottom of the hill because it is very narrow and it's very steep, and like the soil type in most of the mountains are very loose. So these actually leads them to an economic hardship, which is having far-reaching impact on the sociological aspect also. Then these are another set of problems which is directly related to the economic problem, which is poor infrastructure. Like if you look at the mountain areas, the road network is very poor, and because of the snowfall and all, most of the time the land or the road is actually covered with a snow layer, and visibility is also poor. So because of this poor network of road, like transportation is difficult in these areas, and any kind of economic activity requires very meticulous planning. Like if you do the same activity in plains, you may not probably require so much of investment or planning, but in case of a mountain, it is difficult. Then telephone network and internet connectivity are things which are essential in today's world if you want to do good business. Like if you have to produce something, if you have to sell something, you need to be e-connected. So e-connection in most of the mountain areas are extremely difficult, and in most of the mountain areas, especially in the Himalayan region, we have observed that the rail network is almost like absent. It is almost not there. Only in some cities it is present, but that too is like a very basic type of rail network. It cannot really transport fast, or it cannot really transport heavier amounts. So those are limitations. Then the air transport is another limitation in most of the places in the mountain areas. Because of the air pockets, helipads or airports are difficult to establish. So wherever they are established, only in those areas air network is there. Otherwise, air connectivity in most of the mountainous areas is difficult. And during the bad weather condition, even if an airport is there, the flight landing is restricted. So these are kind of limitations which actually are of great concern to us. Then coming to the health sector, majority of the places lack basic medical amenities. Like during this pandemic of the COVID-19, we observed in places like Arunachal Pradesh, in Indo-China border and all, there was no hospital in many of the villages. So even to give some oxygen support to the patient, they had to be transported several kilometers through bad road conditions. So those are like of great concern to us. And then in most of these areas, not even at the district headquarters, any emergency facility is available. So anything untoward happening, then you don't get any emergency facility. You have to rush to a long distance to actually get those kind of medical emergency facilities. Then the vector-borne diseases are now gradually spreading because of the climate change, and the malaria line is going up. It used to be earlier only in the plains. Now it is invading up and up in many like colder regions also. Now people are getting infected by malaria. So this kind of challenges are gradually cropping up. Then coming to the tourists or visitors, due to the difference in altitude. So altitude sickness is also something which restricts many of the tourists from visiting many of the good mountain tourist destinations. Then we always say that education is the backbone of a community or backbone of a nation. But if you look at the facilities in the mountain areas, you get to see this left-hand side top photograph from the Indo-China border area. Students are commuting to school through a very, very difficult road condition. Then there are two photographs here from Vietnam where you can see the school condition. The schools are really in a very basic condition. The school infrastructure itself is not developed. And then the right hand side bottom photograph is from one corner of China. Like for reaching to the school, students have to climb up this ladder every day. So these are the hardship that students are facing, and even for the teachers also, this is not easy. And many places we have seen that probably the government has established a school, but due to these geographical barriers and difficult like living conditions, teachers do not want to go and serve in these areas. So that non-availability of good teacher is another big challenge when we look at the social problems of the mountain areas. Then in most part of the world, border dispute between the neighboring countries in mountain areas is also something which is very, very common. Political war is going on, social unrest is going on. And then there is a social unrest also because of their nomadic lifestyle. So all the herders, especially in the Himalayan areas, they do not have a permanent settlement. So they pack up their entire family and then they move from place to place and they live a nomadic lifestyle. So this impacts their children's education. This is a very hard type of life. It's not easy. It's extremely difficult from livelihood point of view also. Access to water is difficult. So all these things are witnessed. Then this is a wall which I don't want to name the country. This is quite popular. Everyone knows about it. This is the wall of shame. You can see on one side of the wall there are slum areas, and on the other side the rich people live, so they don't allow the poor class people to come through the other side of the wall. So this kind of social divide is also there. Then the institutional framework in most of the mountain areas is very poor, so they do not have a strong social institution. Gender imbalance is also quite evident. Representation of especially the ladies in the parliaments of mountain areas is very low. In the government is very low. So these are kind of concerns that probably over a period of time the global community has to address. Now, another very important aspect is the disappearing languages. Like mountains, as I already said, like because of the richness of the biodiversity, because suppose I live in a mountain village, I have everything in my village. I produce my own food, the water is available, okay, and I get fresh water, water, air, everything. I get fish also. So I do not really have to go for a long distance for trading. So as a result, I am in my own silo, And as a result, we develop our own languages. So this is how over several thousand years, languages have evolved. Like small variations in dialects were there. And this was evident in almost all mountain areas. But gradually, now, because of several influences, because of the globalization, because of the influence of English, and because of the influence of many national big languages, many small languages which are spoken by only a small population are gradually getting extincted out of the world. So these are disappearing altogether, which is a pity, because a language is a property of human kingdom. Like if it is there, we should try to preserve it in whatever form it is possible. But many languages in the mountain areas are disappearing. And when we say that languages in the mountain areas are disappearing, it is not that languages in other areas are not disappearing. But if you look at the rate of extinction, then the rate of extinction in mountain areas is much faster than any other areas. So this is a great concern to us. Then if you look at the cultural heritage, like if you go to mountain areas like in Nepal or in Sikkim in India and all, you get to see very rich cultural heritage. But gradually, the influence of certain modern culture that we call them, maybe a disco culture, is gradually invading into all these areas. And actually, tourists go to many of these places to get those unique experience of the unique cultural richness. But unfortunately, because of these influence of different kind of I would like to say imported culture, the original local social culture or cultural heritage is gradually disappearing. So that is another very unfortunate thing. Now, coming to the third pillar, which is extremely important, is the environmental sustainability or the ecological sustainability. If you look at the soil, then soil is gradually being lost because of some natural phenomenon, and also because of man-made phenomenon. Man-made is more responsible for it. Naturally, of course, due to avalanche and landslide and all, some amount of soil is getting lost every year in the mountain areas. But if you look at the human practices, then shifting cultivation or zoom cultivation practice in the mountain areas really lead to a devastative, like burning of forest in a large area, and then converting that primary forest into cropland, and then ultimately the abandonment of that land after 2-3 years. So that practice, earlier it was sustainable because the human population was small, and the need to shift the land for cultivation was, the cycle was quite long. But now the cycle has turned out to be 2 years to 3 years, so which is not sustainable. Then unplanned tourism, soil again is getting polluted because of use of polythene and many other like toxic materials in the packaging of different materials. And chemical fertilizers are being used in many agricultural fields. So these are like things which are completely kind of man-made. These are in our control. We can actually control them, but we are still not really doing it. Only in some areas, some good practices have been recorded, and they have been able to successfully kind of completely do away with polythene or completely ban chemical fertilizer and declare the whole state as a organic farming state. So those kind of practices needs to be promoted more and more. Then if you look at the wash management, the water sanitation and hygiene management in mountain areas, then the good quality drinking water is a big challenge. So it is in many parts, it is a rare thing. and wherever the good water is available, there also the management or distribution is a big issue. Then water for agricultural activities is also scarce. Water for animal husbandry is another challenge. Then a lot of wetlands are getting polluted because of the negative impact of the tourism industry. And sanitation is also poor in most part. So poor sanitary toilet is not available in many areas, and unplanned tourism is actually leading to it. Then environmental sustainability, these issues we have discussed in my yesterday's presentation also: poaching and hunting, deforestation, different developmental projects, then shifting cultivation, unplanned urbanization. All these things are directly impacting negatively on the environment. Then monoculture is also coming out to be a killer of the environment in the mountain areas. So the moment we destroy a primary forest, which is quite biodiverse and quite mosaic type, we convert it into a tea garden or a rubber garden or any type of a garden which is a monoculture. It actually harms the biodiversity of that area. So we lose diversity. We only produce one crop which is for the benefit of human being and not for the benefit of environment overall. So these are things which we need to keep in mind. Excessive herding is also leading to different kind of environmental problem. Then flash flood is something which is basically natural, but has got a huge influence from human activities. Environmental sustainability also has a great concern about climate change. So a lot of glaciers are melting, many small lakes are disappearing, many small springs are disappearing, they are completely drying out. Many rivers which were earlier perennial river have now become seasonal river because of water scarcity. Then the disease pattern is changing because of climate impact, and newer and newer pests are gradually invading into the mountains. So these are concerns or issues of mountain sustainability overall. Then if you look at the energy requirement of the mountain, because of the cold temperature, the energy requirement in mountain areas is enormous. It's very high because we need to keep our houses warm also. It's not only the cooking energy or not only the energy for different industries or our vehicle running, but we also need a huge amount of energy to keep our houses warm. So we have to somehow shift to maybe either solar or some kind of alternative energy. Otherwise, energy is also going to give us a big threat. And of course, many people say that this hydroelectricity is a green energy, but it also has got its own negative impacts, which are quite visible in the mountain areas. So with these, I would like to stop here. I have tried to kind of restrict myself within 30 minutes. If there are questions, then we can take it. I am not really in the best of my mood today. 3 persons in my family have been detected COVID positive this morning. So we are having an unrest, but it was a commitment to this program that I will be addressing. So I tried to address. If you still have some question, I can take it. Otherwise, if you email me, then I would be happy to reply to your question. But if there is any delay in replying to your question, please bear with me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalita. Thanks a lot. Very much appreciated your commitment, your excellent presentations, a lot of information. We wish speedy recovery